You see all these great YouTubers out there and you're like, oh my god, how do they make these thumbnails? You know, you want to make these thumbnails, but you have no idea how to, and that's why I'm here. So I'm about to show you how to make awesome thumbnails. So go ahead and get into mypc.com, download your pirated version of Photoshop, and slap that baby open. Once you are in Photoshop, go ahead and click Create New. Once you're in here, go ahead and make sure that your width is 1280 and then your height is 720. Now it's going to be a 720p thumbnail because that is most likely what YouTube is going to allow. You can name it whatever you want. I just leave mine as untitled because it really does not matter. So go ahead and click OK once you set up your whole project. Now once you're in here, it might be black, it might be gray, it doesn't really matter. You need to go ahead and find a background. So when I want to find my backgrounds, I'll search up 80s synth city background. And then I will get a bunch of different looking things, and there is so much stuff that I can choose from. Now, I like to use the synth backgrounds because they have a lot of color, you know, and it really draws in the viewer's attention when I make these thumbnails. So I found this and it looks pretty cool. Now you might be thinking, I gotta save it now, but no you do not. You can just hit copy image, unless you do want to save it so you can use it every time. Save it, but instead I'm gonna copy image, I'm gonna minimize it and go ahead and click Control V to paste it into Photoshop. And now as you can see, we have our beautiful thumbnail. Now since I want the viewer's attention to be, you know, drawn to whatever is on top of this, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of a blur to it. So I'm gonna head up to Filter, click on Blur, and click on Gaussian Blur. Now this can go from 5 to 15 to 10, whatever you really feel like, but I'm gonna keep it on 5 because 5 looks the best. So I don't want it to be like this, you know, specifically like this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and scale it up a little bit, maybe get rid of the sun a little bit. You know, I don't want that to be the main focus. I want more of like the city to be in the background, you know, maybe more of a one color kind of thing. So to do that, you have to press Control T, and then it will bring up this little square box around your image, and you can do literally whatever you please with it. You can scale it, you can do you squish it, but I'm going to leave it as is. I'm just going to scale it up and then position it to where I would like. I'm going to click enter so that the box goes away and then it stays in that position. So now I need something to put on the front. Now let's say you're making a video about morgues. You're gonna take a picture of morgues, you're gonna mask it out and then put it on this, but in this case I'm making a thumbnail for this video of how to make a thumbnail, so it's no one specific. I'm just gonna go ahead and use, you know, Danny DeVito. Alright, so I found my picture of Danny DeVito that I would like to use for this thumbnail, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it once again. I'm going to paste it into Photoshop, and then there is that beautiful face. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously make it smaller because I don't just want Danny DeVito's face. I need his whole body there, alright? So I'm just going to shrink it or scale it or squish it until I have it where I would like it. So I think that here is about good, but what are we going to do about this background? Now there are two things to do. You could just use the simple wand tool if you have a solid color background and there are no other similar colors on your subject. Now for this I could probably get away with it if I turn my tolerance up a little bit and then that, but that doesn't really look that good. There's another thing you can do, and that is by using the pen tool. So go ahead and click P on your keyboard, and then the pen tool will come up. Make sure it is selected on just the pen tool, none of this weird stuff, alright? So now I'm going to teach you how to use the pen tool in Photoshop. Go ahead and zoom in on your subject by clicking Control and then the plus button on your keyboard. And then if you want to zoom out, click Control and minus key on your keyboard. So go ahead and select a certain point on the actor or subject that you would like to, you know, mask out. I'm going to start on his nice little bald head because that seems like a good place to start. And I'm going to just select each point where it is going to be masked out. I'm going to kind of mask his hair a little bit. It's probably going to look weird, but that is fine. So if you don't want it to look as much as like a polygon or something, you can go ahead and click on a certain point and then just drag your mouse down. So then it makes more of like a curve style. Alright, so I'm at the very last point, and just to connect the whole mask, go ahead and just click on the starting point from where you would like to end. So once you've done that, it should look like this, and go ahead and right click on your mask, alright, and click on make selection. Now before you click OK here, just set at least a tiny feather. Alright, I like to use 0.5 or 1, but I'm just going to use 0.5. You don't really notice it, but if it's not there, then you might notice it. Also, make sure anti-alias is checked. And now you can go ahead and click OK. So, as you see, it has made a selection here. So now what you can go ahead and do is press Control, Shift, and then I to invert the selection, and then just go ahead and click delete. And now as you can see, it has beautifully deleted the exterior of your subject. Now for the hair over here, I'm just gonna do some final touch-ups, you know, with the eraser tool with a pretty high feather. So after I have done that, you can see that it does look much better. Now here, Danny DeVito, he kind of just blends in, you know, you wouldn't really notice him if you were looking at it on the recommended page on YouTube. So let's go ahead and add a drop shadow to him and an outline. Head over to the layer that your subject is on and double click on it, and then it should bring up this layer style panel here. Go ahead and click on outer glow and make sure that the color is white. The blend mode is normal and the opacity is at 100. Now, make sure your spread is at 100 so that it has a solid outline and there's no feathering at the edge or anything. And then you can play around with the size based on your preference, but please do not make it too big. I like to stick around at 10 or 15 or sometimes even 5. It really just depends what my target is or what my subject is, you know, how big is it, what shape it is, and how much I want it to pop out of the screen. But for now, I'm just gonna stick with 10. Over in the quality, don't touch any of that. Leave the jitter at 0, range 50, or if it's not at those settings, then just leave it at whatever it is, unless it does look weird. Now go ahead and check drop shadow. You can play around with the opacity depending on what your background is. Make sure your distance is at 0 because we don't want that, you know, coming away from our target. And make sure the spread is not at 100 because we don't want it to be solid. We want it to, you know, have a lot of feather, but we also want it to be visible. So I'll set this to 45 or 40, around that area. And then the size really can depend on whatever you're doing. It's the same with the outline, but please do not make it too big so it does not look ugly. I think I'm going to stick around 40, and then over in quality, once again, do not touch it, and if it does look weird, then just switch it to these settings. So once it looks how you do like it, you can go ahead and click OK. And now your subject is popping out of the screen and someone is going to be drawn towards that thumbnail and then hopefully click on your video. So now I'm going to add some text to the thumbnail just so that the viewers know what they are about to watch instead of having to look at the title. Remember, you do not have to put the whole title in that one text. Just go ahead and simplify it into 2 to maximum, and I say maximum 4 words. So for this, I'm going to add the text and it's going to say amazing thumbnails. So I'm going to click T on my keyboard and then it will bring up this little icon, and I'm going to click on my screen and I'm going to type in whatever I would like it to say. So I'm going to say amazing. I'm going to change the color to white. Make sure it is white because whatever this color is, it's not going to be the same color as when you're finished the text, so just make it white. Now for the font, you can find American Captain wherever, but you can also find other fonts maybe in YouTube videos or in a lot of other websites. And if you do want this American Captain font, you can just search up American Captain font download. So before I add the second text, I'm going to go ahead and resize and position this. So now that I have positioned it, now I'm going to press the T on my keyboard again, and I'm going to type in thumbnail. I'm going to resize it, position it, and I think I'm gonna maybe put this above Danny DeVito just to add some more variety. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some layer styles to it. I'm gonna start off on the amazing, so I'm gonna double click on it, and the first thing I'm going to do is add a gradient overlay. Now make sure that the gradient overlay is not the same colors as your background. As you can see, it is here. What I like to use a lot is orange here, like a yellowish orange, and then a brighter yellowish orange, or maybe just a yellow. It kind of adds, you know, some variety, some lighting, and it looks really cool. Okay, so this looks good. I'm gonna click OK, and then you can always change the scale. If you just want it to be a line, you know, a direct change, then you could set it to 10, but I like to have a nice fade, you know, but still you're able to see the difference in color, so I think an 80 is good. Now I'm gonna add a bevel, and sometimes it can look good, sometimes it will look absolutely terrible. I don't really have a guide on making bevel and emboss look good, so go ahead and look at the settings, you know, and choose whatever you think will suit you. Okay, so I have finished the beveling, and if you do like these settings, or if you like how it looks, then you can just go ahead and pause the video and copy these settings real quick. So I'm going to be coming back to the layer styles, but for now I'm just going to click OK and move up to thumbnail, double click on it, and I'm going to add the bevel and emboss, and I'm going to add a gradient overlay as well. So now these two look the same. Now I'm going to add an outer glow, but I'm going to change the size of it, and then I'm also going to add a drop shadow. Now for your text drop shadow, you can leave it like that if you want, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit. I'm going to change the size, either make it smaller or larger, and I'm going to change the spread. So now it ends up looking like this. You can also experiment, because I've seen multiple times where a black outline on text looks really good. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the other text. I'm going to double click on it and then turn on all the layer styles I just added to my other text. So outer glow and drop shadow. So once I've done that, I can now just add some finishing touches, and usually I like to add maybe some lightning or speed lines, probably both though. To add speed lines, just search up speed lines in your browser, go to images, and then find one with a black background that has a 16:9 ratio, just like this one. Copy it or save it, and then put it into Photoshop. Now I'm going to resize this so that it does match the frame size. And then I'm going to bring the layer all the way down to the bottom underneath everything except right on top of the background. Now as you can see, it is black, and the way to fix that is we just have to go to the blending modes and switch that to screen. So now once I've done that, as you can see, it gets rid of all the black but leaves in the white. Now I'm going to drag in this lightning stock photo, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the speed lines and switch the blending mode to screen. Now once you have your lighting, it really is a free-for-all. Do whatever you please with it, alright? This goes on your personal preference, so I'm going to just put up a time lapse of me positioning multiple lighting assets. So after messing around with all the assets, I now have this. I think it looks awesome, and once you think yours looks awesome too, go ahead and click File, click Export, and then click Quick Export as PNG, and find wherever you would like to export it in your File Explorer. Name it. You don't have to name it. I like to name mine, and then I will click on Save. So once you click Save, it will be saved and exported as a PNG file to wherever you chose. So if this did help you out, and if you did enjoy, make sure you drop your boy a like. And if you really enjoyed it, and if it really helped you out, then go ahead and subscribe. That will be all for today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.